Set up the tables here.
You did nice chair. Yeah.
So you realize that. Which,
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I know Ken tonight. Or Robert.
I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Thank you all very much for coming out tonight. So we have everyone here. I would invite you to stand and speak with pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a sign up sheet. We're just going around the room. All right, looks like Debbie, you're up first.
Talking right now.
You want to wait?
No. You go first. You go first.
Okay,
I'll have Greg go first.
all right then. My name's Gregory Stafford, live at 291 Northwest Roosevelt Street, also called Block 5 of Roselawn Extension, lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I have worked with the citizens of Stevenson as an insurance broker since 1993. I enjoy the community, appreciate the area we live in. And I'm very thankful that city council is here today and all the things that you do for the citizens of our community. I appreciate that. And I'm asking for your support today to help connect a water meter to an additional dwelling unit on our property. And have been discussing to connect at location next to our current water meter. We met on site with Carolyn and Leanna, who both worked, of course, with Public Works at the time, to discuss where I wanted to connect the water meter for the ADU. And Pat Rice and Debbie Taylor were also present. Carolyn and Leanna agreed that I could put the ADU water meter next to the current water meter, and also said they needed to have a survey. So several weeks later, Ben contacted me on the phone when I was driving to work in Lake Salmon, and he said the survey wasn't necessary. So he let Public Works know to go ahead with connecting the water meter for the ADU to the city water main. And of course, I was assuming at that time, we already decided where it would be placed. And when Carolyn sent me the cost estimate for the water meter, I just agreed because I thought it was a great cost. And the estimate was a good price. We discussed with Public Works to just go ahead with the job. And then what happened was on paragraph 3 of the cost estimate, I actually didn't really know what she meant by within the Roosevelt City right of way, because it just didn't make sense. Where I was talking about was on my property. The city right of way is across 2 different lots of block 4 and 6 of Roselawn Extension, which is owned by the church. But Carolyn knows I've never agreed to move a water meter 220 feet away from where we agreed. And the only way I found out was when Gordy was marking the lines across the church property. And so I called men instantly with Gordy present, just asked what was going on. But I just think the citizens of our community need better service and communication when doing an important costly project. I don't think damaging the River Christian Church property is necessary. And this action to trick people to ruin property is wasteful and improper to our citizens that live here. I really believe that we need to follow ethics and be honest, follow the rules. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, now I get to talk.
If you like.
Okay, my name's Deborah Taylor and I live at 291 Northwest Roosevelt Street as well. And we have been waiting a long time and patient on issues of the water meter hookup, which is an ADU that was put in 2 years ago.
Yes.
So, as you see in the paperwork, there is a statutory deed. And it shows that the city had put a water main along the north side of the church property, our property, and other properties to our east. And that's the main that the city is all the right, and it's a city right away as a city easement. You see it in the papers and it affects everyone. The water meter that exists is right off the main, and this is what Carolyn and Elena and Pat Rice and all of us were present and agreed that another meter for the ADU would be separate, because if there's an emergency, makes sense in town. If there's an emergency, you can take care of that property and not have it affect the other property. Because right now, they're both coming off one water meter because the city wouldn't allow us to put in another one, which would give more revenue for the city. And we have the right of way going through our property as the deed describes. So we're asking for the city's help in order to do this and do it properly and not be tricked in thinking a water meter should be in a high traffic area, 200 and some, seems like miles away. And the water line could even be, if there was a water leak, the whole thing would have to be dug up or frozen, whatever. It's someone else's land. It should always be on the land that it serves. And that's what we've been asking for. And that's what we thought was going to happen. And until Gordy showed up and then was painting lines, and it's not a city easement. It's an easement that goes down our driveway, but it's not made for our water to be on someone else's land. So we're asking to have the proper meter on our land with the main is right there, and it would be very little cost in order to hook it up. So that's all. Yeah, you can read it easy. I mean, Gordy just came around just yesterday and he was reading them from far away. So it's not where it's currently at. So if there was another meter right to it, it's easy to read. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Mary?
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening. I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving next week. When the bounty of your table is full and that you be surrounded by friends and good company and do good food. So we'll get that on the way. Then here comes the big part. Public restrooms. I've been hearing a lot about public restrooms, and as you all know, I do oppose the lawn project and will continue to do so. But apparently, public restrooms would have been part of that project. I know, and I use the sheriff's office, our $100,000 bathroom that was constructed with the help of the city. It's open 24/7. It is very safe. Maybe we need more signage to it, but it's available for the public. Yes, I know it's up a hill and this and that, but it is a public restroom that is open all seasons. However, maybe we need another public restroom, and I would suggest building a nice public restroom by the bus station near Main Street Convenience Store. It's public. It could be a beautiful little building or something, and it'd be out in the open and safe for the most part, because it's a high use area. If people need that, because some of our businesses are having issues with the cost of the Bishop porta potties and other things. And the porta potty at the tourist stop by the bridge was taken away. The porta potty that was down by the way station was taken away. So this, sometimes you get people coming into businesses just to use the bathrooms. This is a bodily function. We all do it. And there should be public restrooms available for the public, no matter if you buy anything or not at a store. So, maybe it's something to think about in the future. And, I would, just like to tell you that on Saturday from 10 to 3, the library's having a centerpiece project. We're making centerpieces. Everyone is invited. This is a great community event. Just bring yourself, maybe a pair of clippers too. And you can make a wonderful centerpiece for your Thanksgiving table and spend some time in the community. But bathrooms are important. And I don't know why the one down at the way station disappeared. I don't know why the one at the bridge disappeared, but they were very helpful to the public, the general public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Would anyone else like to speak? Go ahead. So you're gonna introduce yourself?
Sam Canista, I live in Stevenson. I was just curious about an update on, did you call it the courthouse project or, I know it's been a while since I've seen anything about it. I've noticed since I last said in a council meeting that, and listened to the discussions about it, that, I noticed the White Salmon City Park added a water feature. And I know that was a big discussion. Might be interesting to see what their experience has been. I know there was concern about the maintenance costs of it. Might get some feedback there. Another piece of data was how do we pay for the maintenance costs? I grew up in the Dalles, talked to some people there. They had Park and Rec Department actually get some money a year. I know it's a different state from the hotel, what's it called? The hotel tax. Tourism. They actually get some of their budget from that for these kinds of things. So just a little bit of trivia, and I'd like to know how, with this project you get moving forward. Thinking the opposite side, I think the best. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Sam, how do you spell your last name?
Kniesteadt. Thank you. It's a mouthful.
Anyone else? Thank you, everyone. Are there any changes the council would like to make to the agenda? Negative. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Second. The first and a second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You. Chair's report.
Good evening. Hope you've been enjoying the lovely weather we've been having. You've been provided documentation for the month of October. I'm just here to see if you have any questions or concerns about the service we've been providing to you. I hope you're pleased with what we've been able to accomplish. And if there are any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Do we have updates on folks who went to training? I know we were talking about some people were working on backgrounds and different things last time.
We have,
Just
as
curious.
far as hiring,
Yeah,
we have one that's hired, starts the academy in, I think, the 12th of December. We still have another position that's full, due to budget restraints. We're not gonna be able to go beyond that. We're still gonna be short. At least one officer that we would like to have, but, we think that no. And we've had to reduce our budget, unfortunately, but we will make things work. I've made some adjustments as far as staffing goes when it comes to our detectives to make them more available 7 days a week. And that will help fill some of the void when it comes to overtime, to fill some of the spots that patrol might not be able to fill, or somebody's sick or something. So I'm trying to take those people to the best of our advantage. I'm not saying it makes everybody happy, but it's what's best for the department and best for us overall. But you gotta make those decisions and move forward with them. So we've done that. So I think we've made some positive changes for the department and for overall cost of running.
Get much pushback from the union?
Well, they're mad at us because we're not giving them what they want, obviously, but when we don't have it from the commissioner, we can't give it to them. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing going through the budget and going through the guild contract at the same time. Believe me, I probably have a few more gray hairs, not quite as much as
Some of us.
there. But maybe I gave him some of those of all the years we've been together. But no, it's been, yeah, it's been a challenge. I mean, but it'll all come out in the end. It might not happen by the end of the year, but we're doing the best we can to resolve it because as you're aware, the SRF funds haven't been committed, so that's a big chunk of change that comes into the budget. And unless that comes forward, then we have to make some changes. And if it does, then I guess maybe we can go back and ask for some additional funding to help us out. So we're doing the best we can. I think we're doing a good job.
And Chief Vincent retired.
Yes.
How many years does he have?
Dave, I think it was 34, 35 years.
Yeah, he's right up there.
So yes, we did make some administrative changes. Those changes won't affect the service to the city. And Rob's talking to me about retiring ever since I came back. He's just kind of been flowing back and forth, trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And based on the changes that were made, he made a decision. He says, this is a good time to go.
Well, welcome to the club, Rob.
Yeah. So, anyways, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:15. This will be in regards to 2025 proposed property tax levy. So Anders, you are up for the staff report.
You got it. So this is the yearly ad valorem increase that is our tool to be able to try and keep up with inflation. Obviously, 1% really doesn't keep up with inflation over time, but is what we are allowed to do by the state. And in order to do that, there is a both ordinance and resolution that needs to be passed each year. And then we report that back to the county. So this is your opportunity to pass that 1% ad valorem. And then we would take that resolution and ordinance and report it to the county, and then they would include it in the new upcoming taxes.
Thank you.
I would make a motion.
No.
Still, almost. All right, so this is the opportunity for the public to make any comments regarding this matter. Go ahead.
Mary Rapar Stevenson, I just have a question. So this tax is every year we go through this process and we add the 1%. So what if, maybe the moon will align with all the stars and suddenly inflation will go down, 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 and things will have more money and this and that. Does this ad valorem tax stay up there where it is, or does it ever come down? Thank you.
Response.
Sure.
Well, could there be an opportunity for the city to lower its tax? Absolutely. Things that would probably need to be considered in that is the overall, how much inflation has gone above the amount of taxes to where it actually caught finally back to equilibrium. And since this was enacted, I believe before I was born, that hasn't happened. And so it hasn't really been considered.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Ann.
If I recall correctly, I think this was the issue discussed in the legislature about increasing that 1% to 3%. And I would like to know, the city is the same as the county or special purpose district. If you don't take the 1%, it banks your capacity. So next year you can take 2%, correct? Or after 6 years, you can take 6%. So what?
That's the understanding that we got from the county assessor. We haven't verified that independently.
That's my understanding as well. So 1% here is better than 6% like that.
Correct. And then the disadvantage to the city would be that you would increase in 2 years to the 2%, but you would have missed the 1% for the year that you did not increase it.
Any other comments? All right, I'd like to close the public hearing at 6:18. Council, staff discussion, or make a motion.
I would move that we approve ordinance 2024-1223 adopting the 2025.
Hang on, let me stop you right there. We have to go in order. So we have to do the resolution first,
Oh, you gotta start up here.
That's my apology. I'd like to move that we approve resolution 2024-445, authorizing an increase in property taxes for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just for clarification, in case anyone's wondering how much 1% is. If your taxes are, say, $4,000 a year, that 1% will add $40 per year onto your taxes.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Who would like to take on the ordinance?
I move to approve ordinance 2024-1222, fixing the amount to be raised by ad valorem taxes and levied for fiscal year 2025.
Second. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I would like to open the second hearing, 2025 proposed budget public hearing at 6:20. The Anders, you're up again.
Yep. So as discussed, we haven't made any particular changes. The budget is originally presented. It just has been updated for two primary pieces. Now that we have numbers in from the county what that ad valorem tax would be, we updated the property taxes to reflect that piece, which was about a $20,000 increase to that general fund. And then the other piece was updating TAC to be, as the TAC committee met recently and has proposed what their recommendations are to spend, which you just approved in the consent agenda, is updated to that number, which was about a $10,000 increase over what was estimated. So those two numbers are in there. Otherwise, it's as had been presented.
In the packet that was posted online, the attachment to the ordinance had draft on it, and that was prior to the updates that Anders just described. So the attachment is there for your review in paper form tonight.
All right, this is the opportunity for the public to comment on the budget as presented. All right, close the public hearing at 6:21. Council?
I'd like to make a motion to pass or to approve ordinance 2024-1223, adopting the 2025 budget for as presented.
Second. First and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, situation update. Who are you, Carolyn? Looks like that's you.
Yes, on the, we in November, September, brought an issue that we were having about, the roof that needed to be replaced at the lower shops near the fire hall. At the time the council approved re-roofing up to $35,000. We secured a contractor to re-roof the lower fire hall for just over $22,000. Since that contract, it has been identified that there's asbestos that needs to be removed from the during the re-roofing process. Just wanted to provide an update that there is going to be another contract associated with that project. It's about $25,000 to remove that asbestos.
Another 25,000. The roofer can't.
The roofer to remove asbestos, you have to be special certified.
They're not certified to do that.
No.
I mean, it's not just the certifications or the specialty of the contractor that adds costs. They have to document the chain of possession for the asbestos containing materials until it goes to an approved landfill, so that no one's exposed throughout the whole life of it. So those costs for a demolition are very high for those reasons.
It's painful. Yeah, but I did want to make this group aware of the change since we did discuss the re-roofing in September.
think the update that we will be surprised when we see that come back around. And I know it is young, it's expensive when I start investment expenses, the peak prices go up fast.
Yeah. So this is presented to you as an update there. The cost for that extra $25,000 all come out of the equipment reserve fund, which has the fund amount in it, as was described in September, that Public Works crew, well, I guess the Public Works Department hasn't had the time to advance on relocation of the shop once the wastewater treatment plant gets up and running again. And so that budget amount fully covers both of these. So these don't trigger any sort of budget amendment.
No.
Yeah.
So a question then, in the 2025 budget, we're in the equipment service fund, there's ending cash of 22,000. Where are we squeezing the balloon? What is not
That's-
going to get funded?
That's the
in order to take care of-
2025. Oh, am I?
That's correct.
So this would be from the 2024 budget.
If I remember right, the beginning cash for the ending cash for 2024, it's not that much. It's about 25,000. What I'm concerned with is squeeze the balloon, something's gotta give. Tracy talked about cuts they had to make on the sheriff's budget. I've gone through that with the sheriff's budget. There are things that have to give. For us to just say, okay, another $25,000 out the door or something. We've got to make some adjustments somewhere within the budget to cover that. That's my opinion.
Mhm. So for the documents that are available for you tonight, and Anders, I'll ask you to feed into some of this, that estimated beginning cash from the equipment reserve fund has 25,043 in it. That is an estimate that Anders included what?
The estimate of the ending cash.
Beginning cash into 2025, or maybe explain the budget review we did prior to authorizing the asbestos contract.
From I believe what was talked about was, so equipment services is all things that are capital assets regarding our fleet. So the balloon piece would ultimately be delaying the purchase of something next year or reducing the amount of a purchase next year for fleet.
That's what I wanted to hear.
And that would be so if it reduced the budget to the point where it wasn't able to do that, right, then it would be, is that available? And if it wasn't, then it would have to come to the budget amendment, as we talked about, those are possibilities. But that is what is housed within that equipment service fund. And so that's ultimately what is involved in there.
So you've already contracted for the asbestos removal though? I mean, has that already been contracted? I thought I heard somebody, okay. So this is all, okay. And that must have been a contract amount that was probably within the limits where it didn't have to come before council because it was below a certain limit, is I would assume, right? So, okay, so it's all in the works.
But just knowing
Yeah.
that the balloon has been squeezed and so something's got to give until you figure out
And the way I understood
how we're
your
going to take care of it.
question is, I mean, so could you go into next year with a negative number there, or do you have to squeeze the balloon? Let's say you're short a little on your cash between those two things. Are you gonna have to squeeze the balloon, to use your term, this year then, or what?
It's a great question, Pat. So the triggers within that fund would be, if it wouldn't necessarily bring a negative fund, if it did that, then we'd be really having issues. Essentially where we would be is if it brought reserves below the financial policy requirement. And if it did that, then it would spark a there could be sparked a, budget amendment for the end of the year, that would require that something happen. We're not there yet, but also we haven't come to the end of the year and we don't know what our final expenses are gonna be within equipment services, especially regarding winter storms. So that's because remember the fund, at the fund level, the budget is at the fund level, not the itemized, pieces below the fund that all add up to that ultimate one fund number.
The, I should pull it up. There's a staff report in your packet about the for and against committee. We have the opportunity to appoint for and against committees whenever we send a proposition to the voters. If we don't send one, then the county will solicit individuals, the public generally, to write for and against proposals. We have been able to discuss some of the positions on this, and so we should be able to create those committees for this purpose and appoint 3 individuals tonight. Still have feelers out to one other individual for the for committee, and then working with somebody else to find individuals for the against committee. So what we'd be asking you to do would be to create the committees, appoint Dave and Kara Owen to the for committee, appoint Chuck to the against committee, and give the mayor the authority to appoint additional members up to a maximum of 4 on each committee.
Are we ready for yeah, all right, how about this? I'll make a motion to create for and against committees related to Proposition 1 and appoint members as discussed.
Second.
First and second discussion.
I just have a question. So when you appoint people to these committees, are these people that presumably then are for? Or, I mean, are they actually, so if I look at this and I can say, well, hey, these 2 people that are for it are definitely for it. And that if Chuck is against it, that he indeed is against the proposal, or these are just figureheads and in other words, trying to just get it, is this,
Well, you would be appointing the people. I'm not appointing them.
so, okay, so then under the law, I guess what I'm asking for is, are these supposed to be people that are indeed against it? I mean, is that supposed to be how they feel in their heart and they'll be arguing in the voters pamphlet against it? Do I have this right? Is that how it works or what? Or are these just names we put out there and they're,
My understanding of the initial inception of this and being asked to chair one of these committees was, we're supposed to be a neutral party.
okay, that's what I was trying to figure out is when I see for or against what that means.
So, yeah, we're not stating making a stance on being for or against.
Okay, so
we're only running the committee.
Good faith efforts to present rational civil arguments or.
Okay, so theoretically, could you have it, where you have a committee that's writing the against argument and all the people on that committee are for it? That's what I'm trying to understand. So you theoretically could have that.
Yes.
Okay,
Right, and then, yeah.
interesting. How the process works. I know you're just following state law here, but I find it an interesting process.
Welcome to politics, my friend.
Well, I think that our, you know, that our council, you know, they'll come in and go, okay, you got people we need to write a good faith argument for, or, you know, yeah.
No, I'm not casting aspersion or saying.
Yeah, it is a weird
just-
way to do it though, yeah.
Yeah, so.
No, I totally understand.
But I think it's also important that we remember that we represent all of our constituents.
That's right.
We just don't represent a for or against side.
Mhm.
And so that's the thought process that you have to have when you come into these things. And sometimes it's difficult to do that, put aside your personal feelings.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what I'm just trying to say is usually if you have a committee for something, it means that committee is for that. And if you have a committee against something, those people are against it. So, but apparently we could have a scenario where that isn't the case.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Alrighty, all right, Ben, looks like you're up again for the joint meeting coming up.
We do have the joint meeting coming up on December 10th. The intent, or the intended location of that meeting is down at the fire hall itself. So you guys have a chance to experience what you were often talking about there. And so if you are all available to be present for that, we would not deal with the technical issues. Well, if you all and the fire district commissioners are all available to be in present, we wouldn't deal with the technical issues of doing a remote meeting from a different location. If anyone can't be there, we will deal with those technical issues. So that's the first question that I wanted to get out of you, is your availability for that.
I can be there.
Pardon me?
Are you available?
No, I'm not available, and if I could be, I would, it just, I'll be out of the country, but I mean, I am available.
At the
Zoom.
time. Okay.
So I apologize for that,
Yeah.
because I don't want to put extra work on people.
We'll figure it out. Okay,
Okay.
cool. And then the second one, I want to be able to meet with a representative from the fire district in advance. And so I want to get, make sure that I have an understanding and potentially invite Michael back to represent you all, since he had been doing that before, about what you want to see go into the next draft of the interlocal with the fire district. I know at the last meeting, I heard the city wants out of the fire business. I heard that the district is not ready to fully take on the fire business yet, but that there needs to be a crawl, stand, walk, run phases, and that we want benchmarking that move us through those phases. Is there anything else that I'm missing from that, so that I can, and potentially Michael can, make sure that we're representing what the council wants to see next time around?
Any rough idea of the time frame that we would set each of those benchmarks in place?
You know, I think propose 5 years or until the benchmark is achieved, and then it could be indefinite. So, you know, what my thought process there is that there's some financial motivation, financial incentive to move through the phases. So that currently we have something like a 30-70 split for most items. If there was a different split for some of those items, 10-90 or 0-100, to get them to the next phase. And then it's 25-75 something to slowly move through those phases until eventually they're able to run with everything. So that would be an indefinite and not a specific time allotment, and it would let them move at the pace that they can move and grow at.
Also keep in mind that their staffing level is not great. They don't have a lot of staff to support this, and it is commissioners that do have, for the most part, other gigs. So that's probably gonna be part of the benchmark schedule.
How many do we currently have on a volunteer?
Around 20 is usually where it hovers. We always know that number the most in December when we cut the annual check for the crew, and that's where we at this side know. I have been talking with your new fire chief, Ray, some, and he does intend to come in person to the meetings that he'll be on the agenda for. So good connection, maintain a good connection with the fire
Well, I
department.
mean, not that Rob wasn't reasonable and solving from both sides, but Ray's done, I mean, he was a court commissioner and he's done a lot of, he's done a lot of those, a lot of things with it, you know, budgeting and all that, so he has a good grasp on that stuff.
Yeah, he'll be good.
Who sets the amount of pay for the volunteer?
That is, city council, sets that stipend amount.
So we could increase that.
We could increase that, yes.
I think we should consider doing that.
And then their check is based on the amount of time spent on calls, or I guess trainings involved. in it.
Number of calls, number of
calls.
trainings, different amounts.
Thank you, Ben. All right, you do have some informational items in your packet. Ben.
On the community development director side, permitting is down, but we are starting to see the first wave of permits come in for Chinnedeer. So that's 50 or so lots that those are starting in, and that should keep new house starts steady. We are working to get the planning module online for our online permitting for planning. It's been very successful on the building side. We've got code enforcement side up, and planning is next, and we're working on that. Should have, I don't know if I can commit to a go live, but we'll be working on that over the summer and hope to have that by the next real permit rush over the winter. Hope to have it by the permit rush going into the spring. Thank you for approving the contract with the state for the critical areas ordinance update. That's $10,000 that we'll use to partner with the county to the extent that we can partner with them on the initial analyses that go into the ordinance update, the public participation plan for that. You should expect another $10,000 contract in June or to serve the fiscal year 26 for the state. They split it up as two contracts, two $10,000 amounts. We are able to spend retroactively if we had costs in 2024, but we didn't. So all that $10,000 will be spent by the end of the state fiscal year, June 30th, and then we'll have another $10,000 available to complete the ordinance update. Again, working with the county as much as possible. Planning Commission in even years, in October and November of even years, they go through and review conditional use permits that they have issued. They put a review cycle on those, evaluate whether the permit they've issued is having impacts that they weren't able to anticipate at the permit stage. And if they are, then they can add different conditions, revoke a permit. So they cleaned up several permits that are unnecessary. So that we can officially just close the permit file on all of those. And they've extended the review period on 3 where they weren't able to evaluate the impacts because, or 2 of them, they weren't able to evaluate impacts because the projects aren't completed. Both of those are city permits. Sewer related, so hope to get those completed at ASAP. And then the other one is a project where the applicant is having trouble getting some trees established to screen a parking lot. And so extend that permit, that review timeline to make sure that those trees survive and provide the screening purposes that the Planning Commission wanted to see there. So
I got a question for you on the provisional use permits. How often are they actually reviewed?
at the program level, we'll attach in October of even year review cycle to every permit. And so permits issued in 2022 and 2023 have a 24 review cycle. Permits issued in 24 and 25 have a 26 review cycle as the draft permit. Planning Commission can change those if they ever seek to, but just to make sure that we review things and know when to review them, it's every other October. Once you get to that 2 years, they can extend the review cycle. They can make more adjustments at that time. Sometimes they won't have a review cycle on there. I don't know if that helps.
The reason I ask is because I know a few conditional use permits that have been issued that have never made the transition to permanent use. I mean, one in particular, we have that one church here in town.
Yeah. The conditional use is something that will either run with the life of the business on a property, or run with the property in general, or run with the property owner. And so that's, the church, on McKinley and Jefferson is one of those that I just talked about. The review cycle was extended, because the planning commission wasn't satisfied with how they were meeting that condition. So once they are,
There was a salon across the street from there for Jesse had for 20 years and had a conditional use the whole time. And then when you close the business, that's when the business was closed.
Same thing applies for personal properties, the people that get a conditional use permit because they haven't completed one particular aspect of their construction or whatever.
the use remains conditional on the property for, let's see, what's one, that they were satisfied with. Yeah, it's fine. It's good for the to understand what that program is. So the use is going to remain a conditional use as long as the zoning code classifies that type of use as conditional. And so it's not like they moved through and now they're just a permitted use and not subject to the conditions that were required of them at the permit stage.
They still fall within that zoning.
Yeah, they still fall within that zoning. The review period will go away, and so then they don't have to worry about a call from the city in September or October of every even year to talk about their compliance. But we can still compel compliance if impacts are occurring.
So conditional use is not an interim stage on.
Sounds like it is, but it's
Yeah.
not, right? It sounds like they can change from conditional now, but
So if the
really,
zone changes or the zoning or the requirements within the zone change, then it might not be conditional use, it'll just be permitted. Right.
End of report.
Carolyn?
Not a whole lot to report on, water side with a tree fall on our sedimentation basin, so we replaced the panels of that roof. Wastewater, both the treatment plant, the pump station projects are advancing. In streets, you've probably seen the lights have gone up in downtown. Know that First Street is opening tomorrow, so the overlook will remain closed, yeah. Until mid-December, they're waiting on the rail to be fabricated. Successful Spruce of Stevenson Fall Edition Day, so big thanks to SDA volunteers and city staff that participated. Person can be Ben and Kate. I were all there. And equipment, the dump truck is being sold at auction this month. Older one that we surplus earlier this year. No updates for parks, and our staff, or my staff, John Dexter earned his level 2 water treatment plant operator and his water distribution manager certifications last week. Additionally, we had first aid CPR certification training this week.
How many hours was that?
6.
Get to be, now you're qualified to go out on an ambulance.
I don't know that it's not.
So long time.
We feel better about helping someone that cut their finger, I guess. Yeah, but we also all attended, and then kind of just something of note, Ben Scott and I all attended a port commission meeting this week. In an effort to improve communication and relationships with the port. One of the major outcomes of the meeting was a desire from the commission to get regular updates from the city, so we'll attend at least quarterly moving forward.
So what about that part that we've been waiting for at the sewer plant?
It's all right.
It's gonna gloss right over that.
No, I mean, it still has months of work to go
It's
before.
still, it's in the country, and it's in our yard.
positive.
It's close.
So how
How's the low load from China?
3 years, 2 years delay?
Right.
Closer to like, yeah.
Anything else?
Not for me, unless anyone has any questions about it.
And the little red truck went on too, right? Or did that go away well?
I used the new parking spot, disabled parking.
Did you? Great, okay, I guess, thanks for bringing that up, we did, we, yeah,
Yeah.
demarcated 8 locations, on First and Second Street. So
Awesome.
Nice.
I'm glad they're getting utilized. I've only just heard the rumors of people don't know they're there, and so they park there illegally, so hopefully some of that will go away. Might have been worth, your White House is here, that we should, whatever you call them, Under Sheriff White House is here to make note of that. Like, hey, so guess these are up in case no one noticed.
Well, the CPR training was supposed to be earlier, but it was a glorious, beautiful day. How about we ditch the CPR and go paint some parking spaces? Yes.
We may need to, just for your information, we may need to do some more signage. I don't know what it's gonna take, but Mary and I were actually at the post office. And some yahoo from Oregon decided to come straight north up Russell. And, so Mary jumped right out in front of him and waved him down, that a girl. so,
Turn.
Yeah, that's when you drive past me going up Russell too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know how we fix that.
I've heard it happens pretty much every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's signs, I know there are, and then,
I mean, you can't make the signs much bigger.
oh yeah, I know. I
That's
always
what
know
goes
that
to
happens.
Tuesday. One way.
Make it pay.
I guess you could do those like one-way, spikes. You know?
That would,
Rental vehicle.
we have to get it to,
Do you have a
more active
tire
tow
shop?
truck.
What's up?
As an alternate to our insurance agency, I don't think that's the route.
Yeah.
One-way.
All right, well,
All right.
thank you.
Ben?
Personnel wise, we've had a tough couple weeks, with city hall personnel. Big life issues for, 3 of the staff here. In addition to being down the staff member of Liana. So thank you for your patience with the packet, this week. We should be able to turn the corner and get everything to you, much earlier than piece of paper at the meeting. So thank you for the patience. One of the things that's going to help us with that is we've hired the individual that's going to be covering for our utility clerk when she is out of the office on leave somewhere middle of January or so. So we've got a training window where Deanna Siren is the individual's name. She had been with the city of North Bonneville before, and so she stopped working there end of September, early October too. So she was needing a job. We were needing somebody that knew how to do the job, and that worked out. We did a budget analysis on that. Hiring her, bringing that staff on itself doesn't trigger any budget amendment for you. But one of the next steps for us, now that the 25 budget is approved, we'll do the end of the year 24 budget reviews and present to you any amendments that need to be made. And that closes one of those gaps that Pat talked about. No, we're not going to have a negative balance going in because we can't end this year negative in any fund. So we do that analysis between now and your next meeting to make sure that what we spent this year, we budgeted for. We have the authority to spend. So expect that one the next time. Back to Deanna, she had been her role for North Bonneville was had been something between Liana and Anders' role for the city. So she's going to be able to step in easily for our utility clerk when she's gone, and she's going to help us do several managey things, that's how we were calling them for our city hall strategic plan, managey things to make sure that we have all the appropriate checks and balances that we need, but also just to improve how projects go. For example, the cost centers of the budget, all those pages and pages and pages that you saw in the previous thing, whenever we spend something, we need to say, what cost center is this going to? Is this an equipment reserve fund? Is it equipment reserve fund under this bars number here? So that needs to happen every time. We're going to expand our invoice approval process to just document those better. Then the field crew, when they have an expense, they can categorize it. that provides the utility clerk as a check and balance to what they categorize. And then we have those checks and balances between the utility clerk and the deputy clerk treasurer already. So we've added a check and balance to that. And we weren't gonna get that done unless we brought somebody else in to help us with that. So she's gonna be able to help us with that and several other things too. One of the changes that we're intending to make going into next year is to the small works roster. This is a list of consultants or contractors that want to do business with the city. The way the system currently works is city publishes a notice saying, hey, if you want to be on our small works roster, if you want to get a direct call from us at some point next year, give us your information and you might get a call if we need your service. Saw cutting, paving jobs, concrete jobs. And that's it. They give us their name, they give us what they do. And many of those, as we've talked about, aren't prepared to do business with the city in the way that the state requires them to do business. So that's paying their employees this prevailing wage for our region, that's doing reporting to the states, several different state departments. And so we end up going through the effort to reach out to them and start getting quotes from people who aren't going to be able to do the job at the end. And so there's staff time that goes into that, that's wasted. That's those contractors' time that go into that. So the getting on the roster process, we've raised the bar just a little bit so that they're providing the different numbers that their business has to maintain for reporting to this agency that's required, this other agency that's required in order to contract with us. We're getting some other information for that.
You refer them to something on our website to give them all that information or?
Yeah.
And we put together any kind of a package that can be handed out to the contractor that's not necessarily.
Yes. Yeah. And so we're gonna be able to do that going into next year. And we're doing with our eyes open, knowing that we're raising the bar or apparently raising the bar, really.
Just informing them
Yeah.
of the bar.
Yeah,
Right.
and working with the EDC, most likely EDC or the chamber, to provide the direct business coaching to the individuals that can't get that bar, but that could if they're going through and getting registered with those state agencies appropriately. So they'll have a coach that allows them to do that. That's a what they call in the economic development world a business expansion endeavor. So we're raising the bar at the front desk here. We're working with our partners to make sure that people can get over that bar if they choose to.
Yeah, true right now. They have something called a responsible bidder checklist. And so it's essentially saying, these are the things you look for once you get your name. And so, do you have this? So you can walk through the checklist with them. And sometimes it's like, well, what is the ESD number? Or where do I need to go to make sure that I have a license with the city? So I think it will be a lot of hand-holding initially, but the goal would be to get do the handholding for the local contractors so that they're all set up and ready to go. And when we have work that we need to do, it's just hey, can you do this work? Okay, here's your contract, and the majority of that's
So it's like
is done.
The boats rise with the tide, sort of
Yeah.
analogy.
Yeah, I'm just hoping. I mean,
Yeah.
and with any luck now, they have some, or they might have a little bit more experience and confidence, because Gordy coached the contractor through yesterday. The day I was like, was it pretty painful? He was like, no. Like, it's just a lot of boxes to check. It's like, yeah, it's just a lot of boxes to check. So I think it's less intimidating when you get into it. When you first see all the boxes, it's very intimidating. And once you get into it, you realize that you can check them all. If you walk through them, so.
And this is an example too of Gordy was doing that at the contract phase. Some of those boxes will be checked at the entry onto the roster phase. And so it'll be easier for Gordy to do that after this.
And this is the roster that we would use, for example, like if we needed to do a sidewalk repair or something like that, we would use a local contractor for that. Great.
Yeah.
Or a reroof, or.
Right, we'll take a tree down at the.
Or
paint
Or take a tree, yeah.
Yeah. We have to pay that prevailing wage no matter what.
Right.
Right now, where the local contractors aren't bidding on that job or aren't able to complete that, we're sending that money to Hood River, we're sending that money to Vancouver. We want to keep it here.
Yeah.
Two items were requested last meeting to be on the next agenda or an agenda. Parking on Russell Street is something we talked about as a project level, operational level project. So this was Chuck's request, talking with the businesses there to have diagonal options on Russell and increase the inventory of parking there. So we didn't feel like we needed full council authority or consensus to move forward on that. So after some of these projects that Carolyn's happy to wrap up this month, early next month, we'll be able to start working on that. We'll
At least the analysis.
the analysis, right? So in the terms of our capital facilities plan, we identify different phases that a project's in. There's identification phase, scoping phase, funding, design, construction, closeout. And so identified, and we're moving into the scoping phase. That scoping phase will involve coordination with the parking advisory committee, working with the engineer to identify how many, how it'll work, and what it'll cost, and then bringing that forward to you guys after that happens.
So are you looking at single line lane on Russell and diagonal parking on both sides?
One side.
We'll analyze. It probably works out where there's only room for one side, but down to a single lane.
Parallel parking on the other side.
Yeah, but we'll be able to answer more questions once we advance it through that scoping phase.
Well, that's the hybrid model that's up on the upper Russell. We have the slanted on the west side and the parallel parking on the east side. But it's a little bit wider up there. But that's the hybrid model you're talking about.
The other issue Lucy brought up about hostile architecture and especially hostile public facilities, is that public amenities? That felt like a policy decision that I didn't feel comfortable on the interim level advancing. And so that one, along with the policy decision that arose mid-month for public records policy updates, I feel like those are things that should be started or policy discussions that should be initiated once there's a full-time administrator going. So continue course on the policies that we're talking about now, which on my side, now that the budget's done, really will be looking at the sewer ordinance and the outreach for that. And that's what I'll commit to.
That's still in committee right now, isn't it?
You all approved a public
No,
release.
I'm talking about it on the state level. That particular.
The hostile architecture.
Yeah.
I think that was one that didn't advance from committee last year, and I don't know if it's been re-proposed this year or not.
So we still need to look at it.
And so this list of policy type of things, we are keeping that list to bring it into the discussion at the strategic retreat. So obviously that's not scheduled. We haven't talked about scheduling that, but spring Q1.
Still not fun.
End of report.
Anders, did you want to chime in?
Busy month. Obviously, we saw several things. We had the property tax ad valorem. TAC committee met twice during the month to go over several new applications, which was really cool. People saw. So overall, it's a busy month, but that's what I got.
Still dark.
Still dark. We're doing something right.
He dies it.
You picked the right color, did you?
Really natural.
Right. All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
Really quickly, Scott, before you shut her down, I spaced, just something else on the public works side staff. A gal from an organization called People for People reached out.
Liz?
Yeah, do you know? You must.
I know Liz, yeah.
She's got an individual, that did work for the county in their buildings and grounds department. They basically pay the individual's wage to come and work for either a nonprofit or a government entity, and, his resume looks great, and so, we're hoping that he reaches out for an interview, and we can get him part-time doing some facility maintenance worker type stuff.
What's that? It's facility maintenance worker type stuff.
Facility maintenance worker type stuff, like landscaping, general building maintenance and.
With landscaping.
Yeah, that's the downtown support and building support. Yeah, big work. Yeah, no water sewer running, right?
Oh, it's a cool program.
Yeah, you're.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I know this. Yeah,
Perfect.
I work with her a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any, so far it's just, yes.
Okay.
Anyway,
Not yet. No, I wanted to let Carolyn finish the first thought. Dave was looking for an update on the hiring process, so I think we're still got stakeholder interviews, and then we're just waiting for.
Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, no, totally. So you all had your stakeholder interviews on, and we have been getting them information for the packet that they're gonna be putting out. Part of the result of that stakeholder interview, right, is the finalization of the job description, right, and what they're gonna be forming for that. So once they have all of that, then that will move us to the next step.
Do you happen to know when that'll go live, when they'll actually be accepting applications or putting the application out?
I do not have that.
Okay.
When I had talked with him, he had mentioned he would like to get that out in 30 to 45 days.
right, that was what he told me too.
Yeah, I think I heard that too, but I just wondered if there was a specific. The only other question I didn't think to ask is this Deanna person from North Monteville, Siren, if I got her name. When would she be starting? Would she be starting when the leave happened, or was she?
She's already started. She's already started.
She already started, okay.
I know Deanna, I worked with her a while back. She's cool.
Anything else? Report-wise? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
I move to approve the vouchers as presented.
Next.
The first and second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I do need signatures, by the way. Anything to report from council or from the mayor for the greater good?
I'll report on the tax committee. We did meet twice. We took care of $575,035 of money to get out there into those different projects. So that was really over $100,000 more than we had last year, right?
No.
We had 456 and we have approved 575, right?
No, 456, I think is what the projected income is, piece. Not sure where you're seeing that one, but last year we approved.
495.
Oh, of total what had been spent, you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't dispersed all of the 2024 funds yet.
okay, all right. So anyway, there's a goodly amount of money that is going back out to different organizations. Also, we had discussed taking a look at, rather than doing an annual review of applications, we talked about doing either a quarterly or a bi-yearly application, so that some of these people that come up with ideas during the year and they would like to fund something that year, but yet they don't have the available funds for it, they could still apply for that. So we're trying to get that taken care of as well.
Part of the discussion around that would be, if you could time it right so that it would, encourage shoulder season
Yes.
applicants, right? So that people are during really busy during 2 months, but there's not enough beds, right, in the city for that. But really, if during, you know, the later season, that's when more beds are available, and more events, bringing more beds to fill that would be very beneficial.
So, also on the opioid abatement committee, we are processing applications right now and reviewing those to send those forth to the county commissioners for approval of those funds.
I know this isn't Stevenson, because we are the city council for Stevenson. This isn't necessarily Stevenson, but North Bonneville, they're opening back up the hot springs, the resort. And so they're hiring for all kinds of stuff for that. And I know that that isn't in city limits of Stevenson, obviously, but it definitely affects Stevenson and how many people come through and how many people spend, you know, dollars go into the businesses here. So I think that's a positive.
North Bonneville will have a tax on them.
Right, I mean, it's a positive for the whole county.
Well,
I think,
and the job opportunities.
for people who live in Stevenson, and yeah, absolutely, it was a bunch of jobs were available, like right now. So that's, I just think, anyway, I know that's just so that's
Strange,
pretty
honestly,
good.
that place has been.
Right, so what? But anyway, I thought that was positive, so I'm excited about that.
Anyway,
Anybody else? Anything that you would like to bring to the table for next meeting?
You know, the Staffords, I know that Carolyn and I think Van or something are gonna meet with the Staffords tomorrow at their property to see if they can resolve that issue. And I'm hoping that that gets resolved. But if the Staffords feel that it isn't resolved, and I feel that they should, I'd like to give them an opportunity at our next meeting to come and address the council so that they have an outlet where they can, we represent all the citizens here, where we can, this isn't, I don't feel micromanaging, because this is just the citizens we represent. If they have end up having a beef with the city that doesn't get resolved, I feel they should have some place to go, and that's gonna be their council members. And if they can't, you know, they can't come to us individually, because we have no, as we all know, we can't do anything individually, but as a council, we can either, we can take a look at what their complaint is and think if it's systemic or something we need to look at. But I'd like to give them that opportunity if their issue doesn't get resolved. And I fully suspect that it probably will get resolved, but, you know, we, as I understand, Ben told me we would need consensus to put that on the agenda. We would need at least 3 of us to agree to do that. So it's, previous to that, I just assumed any one of us could add something to our own agenda, but I guess that's not the case. So that's why I'm bringing it up now for the next agenda. If that doesn't get resolved, that there's at least 2 others that agree with me. We should look at it.
Well, I would think that the open comment period would cover that. They would be able to come back and.
But there's nothing we can do if we can't, that's not a dialogue back and forth. And is there anything we can do to resolve that issue as a council?
Well, I don't know, Pat, if that's within our purview, because we don't dictate to city staff how to do the operational portions of their job.
So then the only option they'd have is, so you're saying our citizens, then the only other option they'd have is just to go hire a lawyer and sue us. As opposed, I mean, where do they ever get their fair hearing from us?
They have appeal rights. Through the city standards, there are appeal rights when they get to that point.
Well, you know my views on it, because I think I just made them clear. So if I'm the only one that feels that way, that's fine. But I would hope that at least 2 others would. I think we're here to serve the citizens. And
Yeah,
that's,
and I agree, Pat, I agree.
And oftentimes, we certainly throughout these meetings, look how much time we listen to the staff. They advocate for what they feel is in their interest or for the city's interest. So we give the staff all this attention. But when citizens have an issue that doesn't get resolved, the only attention we give them is public comment. That's it. Okay, goodbye. And then what we're trying to do, what I'm proposing is I'd like to build more trust in the city government. So that people are feel more heard. And that, yeah, those people are there for me. They didn't do what I wanted, or they decided at the meeting that they couldn't get involved in this, so they didn't. But I was able to go and have dialogue with them and explain my side of it, and I felt I got a fair hearing. So that, I mean, so anyway, that's, where I'm at.
And I agree.
Okay,
And I guess I would encourage us to take a look and see where we go with regards to this. And if it doesn't get resolved as far as the Staffords go, then they can go through that appellate process and we can work through that process. And just, I mean, that's why that appellate process is there. So,
yeah,
Greg, I'd encourage you to, if this doesn't get resolved between our public works departments, that you go ahead and step it up a notch and bring it back into the appellate process so that we can run it through the process as we have it set up.
I don't know.
And again, if you want to come back next time and be part of public comment again, we'd like to have you do that as well.
And maybe might be that we're getting into something that could be an issue for executive session, because we are getting into an issue. I was at this meeting to where commitments were made by staff to citizens. And then it appears that the commitments aren't being kept, and I could be wrong in that. I'm hoping I'm at. So then that gets into personnel issues and whether or not we have representatives out there that work for us that are making commitments that then they don't keep. So that probably would get, one could argue that then we got an issue that should be discussed in executive session because it's a personnel matter. And I would propose, depending on the outcome of that, that we add it to the council agenda to discuss an executive session, because then it becomes a personnel matter in my mind. Because the reason I'm making these points is because I think it's, when we as a city make a commitment to somebody and we have our top person out there saying, hey, this is acceptable, two of our top people out there, and there's a witness to that, and we know that that commitment was made, and we don't follow through on that, I think that that's something that council needs to take a look at, and however that happens, because I consider it's a very serious matter. So anyway, that's.
I don't think Dave's saying we don't take a look at it. I'm just saying, I think he's saying we follow the process that's in place.
I know, but.
So that.
Yeah, but you might.
There
Yeah,
isn't
but there's
already
just,
written out way, and adding that as a line item on the agenda, literally, we still can't do
right.
any, we have no action.
It's a multifaceted issue there. There's a
Right,
second,
it's not actionable.
Is that a threat, Pat?
no, there's a second issue there.
So
I don't.
Second issue where? What are you getting?
In other words, there's a second issue there. It's not whether you run somebody through the ringer on you can appeal this and that. There's another thing is when we have our employees going out making commitments to the public, then it appears that they don't honor their commitment they made. That can harm our citizens. And then that becomes an employer-employee issue, because we as a council should not want that to happen. If that happened in this case, it appears to me that it did.
Are you
So then
trying to
I'm
influence,
I'm
are you trying to influence the actions of staff?
Personnel matters.
That is what I am, that's why
I'm sure that we're.
Well, you're repeating
do
yourself
that.
too, Pat.
Let me state it this
No,
way.
what I'm,
Pat, this sounds very threatening.
no,
I'll ask
what
you
I'm
stop
trying to
with
say
that.
is that I'm asking that could be put on the agenda for the next meeting under an executive session, so they can be discussed privately,
I'm
because
not
that is the
convinced
only
that
place
we
we
do
can do.
I'm not convinced
Well,
we can bring personal matters to an executive
That's
session.
where it's appropriate to discuss them, according to the law that I've read under executive session. It's personnel matters, legal issues, but whatever, I said my piece here.
A couple of times. Thanks. Anybody else?
I've had no opportunity to say my piece. And, but I'd like to welcome anyone to talk with me about the issue if you have any thoughts on it or would like to understand more. And I encourage the Staffords to continue
dialogue on.
Yeah, I would like to know more, so I'll give you a call.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any additional public comment on the matters that we have discussed tonight? Mary?
Oh, thank you. Now, did I understand correctly what Anders was taught? I did not get clarification or hear any clarification on the hiring process for the new city administrator. Could you all clarify the process and how it's being handled? I think that's what he was talking about, wasn't it? And also, we had the homeless housing council yesterday, and you have a representative on the homeless housing council, Councilwoman Lauser. And I think you should have reports on what happens at the housing council. The Commerce Department issued their 5-year plan for homeless housing, and elder houseless folks are not in the plan. And we have elder folks in our community who could become houseless and who are houseless. So I think the housing issue should be on the agenda more often. You all need to make some policy changes too about how much affordable housing we have in the community or don't have, and how we're going to get more in there. So again, I think that's a big issue when the Commerce Department doesn't include older people in their homeless housing 5-year plan. I think our homeless housing policies here should include older people and that not just families and adults and other people. Again, I would like clarification on that process for hiring a new city administrator. What kind of timeline are y'all looking at, et cetera? Thank you.
We have hired a third party to conduct the recruitment period. They're in the middle or have concluded the part of the stakeholder interviews, which involve city council members at this time. Staff will also be interviewed, and they'll also be reaching out to stakeholders identified outside of City Hall. So then the process will, they'll start bringing in applicants. They will take care of filtering them down to a manageable amount. The idea is that we'll arrive at 3 strong candidates that will then come and interview with City Council. And then hopefully one of those will meet our needs and we'll be able to extend a contract or an offer at that time. As far as the timeline goes, we haven't gotten to the part of I don't think they're even taking applications at this point. So the path is clear, but the timeline hasn't been firmed up.
Are you rewriting the job description?
It's already been finalized. Yes,
Okay. Does the public have any input into that?
probably. Well, during the stakeholder interviews, maybe, but not a great deal.
I think we should. Just saying. And it's a public position, and the public should be able to at least look at the description and say, yeah, but you need this, and this, maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have a right to speak?
Yes, hopefully on something we already talked
I
about.
thought we were meeting on our property.
The me-
So that it's on site so that you can see the water line's only 5 feet away from
I don't think it's
another.
that, but the meeting,
But to have you there,
the meeting
so you can
invite,
see where
the meeting invite was. to
that
meet with
doesn't
city.
show the property lines if you're meeting down here. And where the water sits right now, it's only 5 feet from a main where the other one would sit right next to it, and there's no problem with it being attached. And you put us off for 2 years and you want housing, and we put in a house where people are living.
We're verging off of public comment.
And
This is something you might
that's
wanna
what
discuss
I'm
with
wondering,
Ben.
why are we meeting here when it should be on site?
At this stage, we're talking about moving into the next stages of the process.
Stage,
Yeah, we're meeting with you to talk about the process.
we know the process.
This
It's
is not the
been put
time
off,
for
and
this
I would please like
conversation.
you to come to the spot where we have asked you to come on site.
Okay.
that happened before and obviously has changed since that on-site viewing happened. And I would like the administrator, are you the administrator, to come and see where that location is. Because I think you
When
should be
Ben talked
involved.
about it,
Okay,
He
you
didn't
guys,
mention, he
we've-
didn't
we've
mention.
done this
for us
part
to
already.
meet anywhere
No,
but here.
anywhere here.
That's okay,
Nothing,
we can
no.
meet here. Don't worry. I agree with you though, because you're like, woman and all that. But what it is he didn't write about meetings.
No, it just.
No, he didn't,
Okay.
he just said to meet.
you
us.
guys, this is
Yeah.
not the time or the place. We
Well, I
had this
would like to
conversation.
get clarification since it's
Okay, you can
tomorrow.
maybe do that after the meeting, because we're done with that part
You were
of
allowed.
this meeting. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about today on, to fulfill our agenda?
Not within the agenda, no. Thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned at 7:25.